All right, welcome everyone to the SAOAO Residency Open-House series with Broward Health. My name is Dwayne Craddock. I am a third year at TCOM.
Hey guys, I'm Arpam. I'm your National SAOAO president.
And so I just want to thank you everyone for taking the time to come out here, obviously spend time with us in your busy schedules. So as I mentioned, this is a residency open house. We have Broward Health, which is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have Dr. Joel Rush, which is the program director, and we have a number of residents, which I will have introduce themselves. If you guys can actually introduce yourself right now.
I'm Dr. Rush. I'm the program director.
Hey guys, I'm Derek. I'm one of the fifth years.
And I don't know if the KOCH is my guy or not. They're still having trouble connecting to audio, so I'm not sure if I'm assuming that. I mean, I assume you put the name there, but I'm looking to see if Anna joined us yet. I don't see her, so I think it's just us for right now.
Yeah,
we should have a couple.
No worries, and we can always do resident introductions a little later.
And there'll probably be a couple people that'll log on at some point.
And so for the kind of programming notes, so the point of this Residency Open House series is to bring out residency programs that are traditionally AOAO programs, and then bring them out to talk about their programs, talk a little bit more about, what's going on, what they have to offer, what kind of residents they're attracting, and then give a little bit more of a platform for them to present about everything about their program. So for programming, this is recorded. So later we will publish this to YouTube for members. It is unlisted, so you do have to use the link that we offer through SAOAO. But this is a good opportunity to kind of get in front of these programs and get an idea of if this is a program that you potentially want to do an audition rotation at, or if you want to look further into detail about the program. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the programming over to Dr. Rush so he can do his presentation.
Okay, let's see if I can do this without screwing it up too badly. There we go.
PowerPoint out. If the rest of the students wouldn't mind just renaming your slides if you can, just to indicate what year you are, that would be really helpful.
Okay, I assume you can't see my slides yet. All right, because I'm not seeing the thing to do to share my slides. Let's go back here. As Derek knows, I'm technologically advanced, but I always screw this part up.
Don't sell yourself short.
There we go. Swap. There we are. All right. You see my title slide? Do I get a head bob or something?
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. It's always nice to get a little bit of a confirmation. Anyway, so I'm Dr. Joel Rush. I'm the program director at Broward Health. And I have those other things that I do. I actually have other medical schools that I'm actually faculty on, and it just gets to be too boring to list, and I'm going to run out of room. So we are in South Florida. If people want to know where South Florida is, here's the state of Florida. If you turn it sort of sideways and stick a wing here, this can be made a paper airplane. But the hospital is down all the way down here. This is the Georgia-Florida border, and this is about 350, 400 miles from there down to here. It's a long haul from the very corner of Florida up here by Mississippi, and then down all the way to Key West is about 1,000 miles. So the state, basically, if you laid it out, goes from New York to St. Louis. It's a really long state, tiny, slender, but it's long. And then, of course, we are down here. This is what we call our Tri-County area, where we have Miami-Dade, is down here. Everyone likes to go down to Miami or South Beach. Palm Beach is north of us, where somebody lives in a compound, and then we're stuck in the middle, in Broward County, and then the hospital is here, which is sort of right around in this area where this blue line is. There's a major highway that cuts across, which is 595, which goes to 75 and across the county, and then up the middle of the country. And the nice thing about the main hospital is we're located where the X is, and you have this thing called the ocean right here. And it's about, I don't know, 3 miles or so, 4 miles from the ocean. And there are people that do run that. Not me, but there are people that do run that. And there's a bridge right here, which is they use to train on because it's very high. And I see people running on it all the time, and I think, you know what, better them, not me. I've gotten too old to run. Anyway, so let's bypass that. That's actually another image. So this is the hospital, Broward Medical Center, which is the main hospital of the 4 hospitals that it makes up Broward Health. This is primarily where the residents are based. It started out as a hotel and then an apartment complex in 85, 86 years ago, which is in the bottom left here. We just actually celebrated our 85th anniversary as a hospital, as the first hospital in our county. And that part of the hospital resides sort of over in the corner of the low building over yonder there, and actually on the other side over here. And it's been a hodgepodge of things being put together over the course of the last 85 years, to the point of adding the new section about 18 years ago, where we do have the heliport with the ORs, and then the trauma bay right below that. So the emergency room is down in this area. It's a fairly large sprawling complex. It's about 1.2 million square feet. So it's a large area. We are a 4-hospital system with about 1,500, 1,600 licensed beds. We have a ton of physicians on staff, and we have a number of urgent care centers and outpatient ambulatory centers. Our county is very unique in the sense that it's split into 2 sections. There's a northern section and a southern section, and they are 2 separate, distinct county hospital systems. I think we're the only county in the country that actually has something like that. And the northern part of the county, we are the northern. We encompass 2/3 of the entire county. And that is about 275 square miles. It's a fairly large area, and we are a public, not-for-profit hospital system. We are chartered by the state as a public domain hospital system. Broward Health is the primary teaching site. It's a 700+ bed hospital. It is a very, very, very busy level 1 trauma center. We have total trauma ER visits of about 4,500 a year, with total trauma admissions averaging around 2,800 to 3,000 a year, and more than 75% of those are going to be orthopedic injury patients. Our emergency room is extremely busy with over 175,000 patient visits a year just in our ER. When you add Broward North, which is the next closest hospital in our system, it adds about another 100,000 patients. So there's a tremendous amount of pathology you see in our system, and it keeps you very busy. And the residents are extremely well trained because of that. We are a very diverse patient population. We have the homeless that live around the area, as you have in a downtown area. But we also have a large number of people from all over the world that live in South Florida. So we are a very diverse population with a lot of advanced illness and people that are underinsured and non-insured, which makes life sort of interesting as well. unfortunately, we've had a unique distinction of having two mass shootings come to our hospital. One is the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that was in Parkland a number of years ago. And then there was a shooting at the Lauderdale Airport a few years ago as well. And we were primary evacuation for both. Or actually for the hospital, for the airport for sure. For Stoneman Douglas, they took a number of the kids to hospitals a little closer to where the school is. One of the sort of the cool things is that we are about 4 miles from the airport, and about the same from Port Everglades, which is one of the busiest cruise ports in the country. So here's our hospital here. This is the area where the cruise ships come in, and this is the airport. So we're right in here. We are primary evacuation for both the airport and the cruise lines. And we have a lot of contracts with the cruise lines to actually, they bring their patients to us from all over the world for care if someone gets injured. It's sort of bizarre, but we take care of people from all over the world. It's amazing how many people trip and fall on cruises or trip and fall in airports. We started out as an osteopathic residency program in 2001. I started the program in 2001 with 2 residents. And then with the single accreditation system that occurred about 7 or 8 years ago, I realized that we needed to do something sooner than later to become an ACGME program to make sure our residents were able to do fellowships. So we were in the first 5 programs of the original 43, 44 DO programs that became an ACGME accredited program, and that was in 2016. We became fully accredited with continued accreditation in 2020, and we have a 10-year accreditation currently. Our current residence size is 3 residents per year, so we're a total of 15. We keep trying to increase that by 1, but the ACGME has their own agenda, and that hasn't been successful as yet. I keep trying. This is my assortment of guys. It's amazing that they even own ties and shirts these days, and they can get dressed up, and gals. It's been since I started the program, it's been the same program director since the beginning. That's me. And currently we have residents from the 2nd and the 5th classes as attendings, among others. So that's me in the middle. That's Brad Roth. He's my 5th resident. He's one of our trauma attendings. Jake Landis was, I forget what number resident. He's actually a hand and upper extremity surgeon that was on staff at our hospital, and he moved to Boca, into the next county. Aaron Kunkel is actually back in town, and our residents are going to be working with him up in Boca area as well to do spine. And there's an assortment of other people. This was an evening, I think, of graduation, or either that or it was a holiday party. I forget what it was. All of the residents in our program over the last 35 residents that I've had that have graduated, that have wanted to do fellowships, have been able to do them. And they've been good fellowships. I've had 4 residents, 3 that did not want to do fellowship, and they went directly into private practice. They're all doing extraordinarily well. And 1 who went into the military and then went into private practice. So he also did not do a fellowship, and he's also doing extremely well. But everyone else that has wanted to do a fellowship has gotten into a fellowship. And as you can see, it's basically the full gambit of orthopedics, except for maybe musculoskeletal oncology, and sports and spine, and adult recon top the list there, which is really nice to see. So these are some of the places our residents have gone: Harvard, Yale, Core Institute in Arizona, Cleveland Clinic, down here, University of Miami, Wake Forest. They're all over the place, and they've all done extremely well getting into fellowships. We started out with, I think, 8 residency programs, with about 128 residents, 4.5 years ago. And we're currently on track to go up to 350 residents total with all the residency programs and fellowships that you see here. That has been a strategic plan from the administration of the system of the 4 hospitals to expand graduate medical education because of the needs within our county and the need to train physicians. And that shows the very strong administrative support that they give to graduate medical education to basically double the size of our residency training programs. Unfortunately, orthopedics hasn't been able to expand, and that's not because the hospital system doesn't want it to. It's just because the ACGME has sort of prevented us from allowing the expansion to occur just yet. The DIO is the person who is in charge of the overall person who is in charge of graduate medical education, and that's Dr. Ro King. She's a pediatrician at heart. She was the first. She started the pediatric residency program at our hospital, and then transitioned to the DIO position. Her administrative director in our building at the Broward Health Medical Center is Tatiana Garcia, and Crystal Ramos is my current program coordinator, and that's my interface between you guys and the program. She's a great gal to work with, and hopefully you'll get to know her as you go along. That's me, and Dr. Roth is who was one of my graduates, is now the associate program director. He was named the associate program director this past summer. So we're happy to have him step into that role, in addition to his role as the one of the trauma attendings. This is our current shiny class of all 15 residents. The chief's at the bottom. Dr. Jones is with us. Dr. Jacques texted me, said she's going to be joining shortly, and I assume Dr. Koch, excuse me, I always get his name wrong. Ian is at the top. Hopefully, I think that was who was joining us. I'm not sure if any of the other residents have joined. We're a level 1 trauma center. We're one of the top busiest ERs in the country. One of the things we pride ourselves on is very early hands-on experience. We expect you to get into the operating room early, and generally our first-year residents get about 125 first assists in the first year. We have more attending, scrubbing, and working than we do residents, so you'll get a chance to work a lot. We have strong subspecialty rotations, strong clinic, strong didactics. And one of the nice things that we have going for us is that the training is not limited to specific industry partners. So we basically have the ability to have almost everyone's equipment in our building, and the residents get a chance to really try out and see all the different companies and what they have to offer, so that they can determine what they want to do or use in their later life. We have extremely culturally diverse patient population. We are a public hospital training center, and as I said, a very supportive staff administration. The experience is basically at Broward Health Medical Center for trauma, also for sports, foot and ankle, spine, adult recon, hand, but additionally for pediatrics, we take care of a lot of kids, but we needed to add Nicholas Children's Hospital because of their clinics that we do not have in our building. So you do 6 months at Nicholas Children's, 3 months in your second year, and 3 months in your fourth year. MSK Oncology is at the University of Miami. Sports medicine is with a split between Boca, just a little north of us in our building. Foot and ankle is also Boca. Spine is Boca, Delray area. Adult reconstruction is across the county at Cleveland Clinic in Weston, hand is between us and Broward Health Coral Springs, and primarily outpatient facilities, and then our building at Broward. The training sites are within about a 30-minute drive without traffic. And as we know, traffic anywhere is a pain. This is basically the experience. I can't figure out anything without having this color coded. So as you can see in the first year, the way it works is, and this is actually from a couple of years ago, there's ortho, you do 6 months of ortho, you do 2 weeks of, technically it's 4 weeks of anesthesia, you do 4 weeks of ER, you do 4 weeks of plastics, you do 4 weeks of neurosurgery. So you have, and then down here in the second half of the year, you actually do 2 months of trauma surgery with the general surgery trauma team. So that's the 6 months of off ortho service. And then, of course, you have the 6 months of ortho service that's scattered. And then you pretty much do some orthopedic trauma almost every year of your while you're at Broward. And I've changed this around to actually take this second block of 3 out of the second year at the request of my residents that have said, you know, we'd like to get a little bit earlier experience with some of the subspecialties. So we've changed this to really so there's less of this ortho trauma in their second year, so that they can actually do some of the subspecialty training early on, so they can sort of get an idea of what they want to do, and then going through the spread out for all the other rotations that are mandated by the ACGME Residency Review Committee and the ABOS, American Board of Orthopedic Surgery. The average is about 1,700 to 1,800 surgical cases in the 5-year period. We do core conferences, we do didactics, we do grand rounds, pretty much everything that most residencies do. We do have an arthroscopy simulator. Actually, we have the only arthroscopy simulator in Southeast Florida, which that was a nice gift from our foundation from the hospital. And then we have very strong partners with our industry, and we're lucky to have a number of wet labs in our county, and which has been great because it gives the residents a chance to go to the lab and work on cadaveric specimens and work on their skills that way, in addition to actually cutting on people. We expect you all to become leaders at some point in time. We want you to be teachers at some point in time. Our students come from all over the country. We encourage and really would like to see audition rotations, and I'll talk about that when I'm done, about how those are set up. Research is not a specific focus, but it is something that all residents have to do. My job is to train you to become a very good clinical orthopedic surgeon, not a research person. So we focus more on the clinical stuff, but you must do research. We try and tell you how to do practice improvement. We're very we focus on work-life balance and very, very much so on resident wellness. So we actually have, try and let you guys have a little fun as residents. The cool thing is, as an employee of the hospital, as a resident of the hospital, we have a 10,000 square foot gym that's in the building. And as a resident, you get that as a complimentary part of your employment package. And the gym is open very early hours, late hours as well. And if you have a half hour in between a case and you want to go work out, go right ahead. It's easily accessible. And it really is the state of art wellness center. It's really cool. And then South Florida is South Florida. We have the beach. We have pretty much all the professional sports down here. The Dolphins are actually doing okay this year so far. We'll see what happens later in the season, and they tend to tank, but we'll see. We have lots of beaches, great dining, especially down in South Beach. We have lots of arts and museums. We have great theater, and of course the outdoor activities. Disney is a 3-hour drive north. The Keys are a 3-hour drive south. So it's where we are. And the contact information, this is Crystal's information. She's your primary contact, orthoresidency@browardhealth.org or kramos@browardhealth.org. And I'm jlrush@browardhealth.org as well, among other of my assorted emails. We, encourage you to get into contact with us and talk to us about what you're interested in or not interested in. Did I just cut everybody off? No, I didn't. Good. Okay. All right, that's my little spiel.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rush. So we're going to transition to frequently asked questions. So these are the questions that you all submitted for this residency open house. So first question for you, Dr. Rush. So what are the biggest strengths about your program that you feel really set your program up for success and allows you to produce top-tier orthopedic surgeons?
I think the big thing is that we are a very busy level 1 trauma center. And I say that in the sense that and we have our residents do 3 months of trauma every year. And what I have found over the last 23 years that I've been running this program, and my residents all say this, is once you become have the skills of working in the orthopedic trauma world, those skills are very transferable to everything we do in orthopedics, except for probably arthroscopy. So the skills that you learn, the way to critically think outside the box in the world of trauma, orthopedic trauma, really can then be applied to pretty much everything else you do in your clinical life. And like I said, except for arthroscopy. So I think that's one of the strong things. The other strong thing is our residents get to operate a lot, and they got to operate early. And the third thing is that they really do get a chance to play with multiple companies' equipment, so they get to try lots of different stuff, which becomes important because you find what works and what doesn't work.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and ask one more question before we open it up, but it's probably something everyone's wondering. From a program director perspective, what is an ideal candidate for you? What do you guys at Broward tend to value more on paper and just in general?
I want someone that is going to be a critical thinker, somebody that's interested, somebody that's trainable, somebody that's not afraid to work hard and work a lot of hours within the federal guidelines and the ACGME guidelines of the 80-hour work week. And from a paper applicant standpoint, I want someone that, unfortunately, grades and boards do play a certain amount of role in the application process, because we know as program directors, we have a lot of good research and statistics that show that there is a definite correlation between boards performance and being able to pass your boards, orthopedic boards. So I think you'll find that, individuals with lower board scores in for COMLEX, in the very low 500s, and USMLE in the very low 200s are not going to be looked at very favorably by most orthopedic residency programs, either prior DO programs or MD programs alike. And that's because, you know, we're under the eye of the ACGME, and they actually look at pass rate, a first-time pass rate aggregated over a certain period of time. And we're held accountable if our residents don't meet that percentage on a regular basis. And taking away part one of boards, both COMLEX and USMLE, has created a little bit of a interesting dynamic for us as program directors, because we've lost one of our objective markers. So I know some of you have heard me speak before, but I actually encourage you to make sure you do well on part two, number one. And number two is, when you're getting your letters of recommendation, get them from individuals that know you versus the come early, stay late, work hard. Because I get 500-600 applications for my 3 slots, and I get 3 letters per application. So I get 1,800 comes early, stays late, works hard. I want something that's going to make you distinctive, that's going to make you stand out in my mind, so that when I look at a name, I said, oh, I remember that candidate because he or she was an Olympic skier. He or she was a a crew chief for something. He or she invented the first widget type of thing, or invented the most fun toy for your iPhone. It's something that makes you stand out. And I always talk about the guy that climbed the 14,000-foot mountains in Colorado, which was very early in my career as an orthopedic surgeon program director. And I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember the story, and it stands out. So those are the things that are important. And doing research becomes for us, is not as critical, because we are a clinical program versus a research-based program. But there are a lot of places that will not look at your application if you don't have more than 10 research projects or papers. And that's true for the MD programs much more than the DO programs. DO programs historically have not really put emphasis on research, because you can't do it at a community hospital as well. It's the bigger institutions where they pump out papers all the time. So that's a long answer for a short question.
Thank you so much. No, we appreciate the long answer for that question. Trust me. So at this point, students, if you guys have questions, just one at a time, go ahead and ask them. If it seems like a lot of people are asking at the same time, we can start moderating, but go ahead.
I have a question. Since you guys are accepting MD students as well, how do you compare DO to MD students? If that makes any sense. Like,
it does. And it's one of those situations where, when you go to a doctor, more than half the people don't know that their physician is a DO or an MD, unless they happen to see it on the door. I can tell you that when we have students in our building, the faculty that they're working with, and actually a lot of times the residents that they're working with, don't know if they're DOs or MDs, except if it says, on the name of the school on the jacket, we obviously know it's not one of the DO schools. So we don't actually make a distinction in that respect in our building, DO, MD. We have obviously some academic partners as a hospital in Southeast Florida. We have an academic relationship with Nova Southeastern University, with Florida Atlantic University, with Florida International University, with Miami, with basically all of the schools in the state of Florida. We have affiliations with. We have an affiliation with Meharry in Nashville, Tennessee. We're actually a core for their students for general surgery and for orthopedics, and they do 2 weeks with us as a third-year student. We tend to have more DOs than MDs rotate with us because the MDs don't get a chance to do as many out rotations as the osteopathic students do. The allopathic schools tend to keep their students within their hospital system much more, and really only a lot of times allow them to do maybe one or at most 2 out rotations. So most of the candidates that we see in our building are, of the 30 some odd, 32 or 33 that are going to be rotating with us this year, probably easily a third, 2/3 or a little bit more are going to be DO, about a third are going to be MD. Maybe a little bit less than a third are going to be MD. Does that answer the question? Things get moved around, and you went from here to there as the pictures shift a little bit. So,
Hi, Dr. Rush. I've got another question for you.
sure.
So, is your hospital nonprofit or for-profit?
No, it's a public, not-for-profit hospital.
Non-for-profit. And
Yeah.
what kind of community outreach does the orthopedic program have, if any?
I can't really say we have much of a community outreach per se. We've really never found or been asked to do that. So it hasn't been something that really has been on our radar. I think it would be a good thing to potentially do, but it just hasn't happened. So,
All right. Thank you. Good to see
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Hi, Dr. Rush. I have a question. In terms of audition rotations, are the applications through the VSLO program, or is it a
Yes.
separate application?
No, they're through VSLO, and let me just talk to that point right now. We cannot have a full audition rotation in our building unless we have an affiliation with the medical school. And you actually can't apply through VSLO unless there's an affiliation between our hospital and the medical school. We can set up observerships, one-off observerships, to have you come in and work in our building, but you're not going to have any real clinical experience because the hospital will not let you. So if you are interested in coming to our hospital as a rotation, and we do not have an affiliation with your medical school, I tell students in first years, second years, and for third years to start that affiliation process now, because it takes at least 4 to 6 months to get an affiliation done. There's certain language that the state of Florida makes us put in affiliation agreements to do with doing business with countries that are not friends with Israel and do business with China, all sorts of crazy stuff. And because we're in a public hospital system, there's also some language in there that some of the attorneys in some of the medical schools have really never seen before. So it creates a little bit of a legal barrier or slowdown. And it generally takes about 4 to 6 months to get the affiliation. And once we get the affiliation, it's generally a 5-year affiliation now. So that's going to be good for a long time. But if you're interested in coming down to us, which we encourage wholeheartedly, we would like to see as many students as we can. I think it's the best way to actually tell how good you are, what you're like at 3 o'clock in the morning in the trauma bay when there are 3, traumas that hit the trauma bay, all from the same accident. We encourage you to really get in touch with Crystal and give her the contact information for the person at your medical school who is in charge of setting up the affiliations, and they do the rest. But do that early versus don't say, oh, I want to come in, I want to be there, come in July of 24, and you try and start the affiliation process in May of 24. That's not going to ever happen. Okay. If you're interested, start the affiliation, start looking at it now. That'll give us perfect lead time. to get that set up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Rush, there was a question, I think also from Brittany, about VSLO and when the application's open, if you want to comment on that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Are you helping to moderate and look at chat
No,
stuff?
I just don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know
Oh,
if I
okay.
respond.
So we actually open up VSLO, I think, a little earlier than a lot of places. We actually will transition our VSLO in sometime in February, like mid to late February. So start looking around there, and we fill very quickly. I look at all the VSLO applications, and I'm the first read on them. And I'm the reader of all the applications, actually. So if you're interested, just start monitoring VSLO very early, and when it opens, send in your application, and we'll go from there. Now, if you're in the process of setting up an affiliation and you can't do it, get in touch with Crystal and let her know. And that way we can potentially pencil you in, even as an observer, which we've done. Like one of the kids in our building right now is from Oklahoma school, that we literally got the affiliation, I think 3 weeks ago, and we've been working on it for a while. So he was set up as an observer first, but because the affiliation finally came through in a timely manner, he's here doing a full audition rotation, which is perfect for him and for us both. So start looking sometime in mid-February, I would say. It changes a little bit.
Alrighty, we probably have time for a few more questions. We were going to try to wrap up the first part about 5:45 and then open it up to the residents. So if you guys have questions, We'll take a couple more.
Yeah, I had one. Hi, I'm Blake. I was wondering what top qualities that you are looking for on auditions. Obviously, we work on our surgical skills, we work on knowledge. Kind of, what is your top couple things that you can give us advice to do well for?
The one thing you don't want to do is have the program director put you in timeout. Go to the corner and sit in the chair. And the other thing is, yes, remember, we don't expect you to know how to do the surgery, but we expect you to know basic anatomy and have some rudimentary surgical skills. Okay. I've seen students over the years that have really very poor eye-hand coordination, and I've told them, listen, I don't think you should ever you should be a surgeon. I think you could potentially be dangerous. So, eye-hand coordination, you guys tend to be a little bit more gamers. And I don't do as well on the arthroscopy simulator because it's a game, and my residents are all great on it because they play games well. I'm an old guy. But I think anatomy, just being present and helpful, and not being a pain. You don't want to be the suck up pain in the butt person, and you don't want to turn it on and off for the attendings and the residents, because the residents are part of our review interview process, and we listen to our residents because they're the ones that spend the most amount of time with you guys on an audition rotation.
Thank you.
What else, guys? You're welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Rush. My name is Shagun. I have a question, kind of somewhat of an offshoot off of the last one, but I know you mentioned about standing out. And I was just kind of curious as to if you could provide any insight on how we could stand out prior to interview or an audition rotation. Is there a way to stand out just, I guess, on paper almost?
Well, that's a difficult thing to really say, because it's what makes you is really what it is. And like I said, I talk very whenever I talk to students, um, one of the things I say is the perfect example is this kid back 20 years, 18 years ago when we started. My rule was if you didn't rotate with us, do an audition rotation, you would not be interviewed. And that's changed now because of the single accreditation and so on. I interview almost everybody that rotates with us within certain parameters. And then I interview a group of people that didn't rotate with us because it's only fair. You know, when you have 500-600 applications for 3 slots, you can't have everyone rotate. But I talk about the one time I actually extended an invitation for an interview to a candidate, and in Colorado there are mountains that people ski on. They're known as the Rockies, and there are a bunch of mountains, and there's, depending on who you talk to, there's either 53, 54, 55 mountains that are above 14,000 feet. And this guy in his application said he climbed, and some of them are technical climbing, some of it's just hike, path climbing, 50 of the 53 or 54 mountain, 14,000s. They're called the 14s. And I just wanted to know who this guy was. I wanted to meet him because the preparation, everything you had to do to be able to do that, because you don't just climb it and come down in one day. It's a process, and the weather in the mountains can change within a half an hour. You can be 80 degrees and sunny and blowing snow within a half an hour. So if you're not prepared, you're going to be dead. So I wanted to meet this guy. That stands out. The guy that was the gal that was the Olympic snowboarder stands out. The person that started a foundation or a not-for-profit, because we've had a number of those, stands out. The person who helped his family survive because of bad things that have happened during the course of their lives makes you stand out. And that's where the personal statement really comes into play, to let me and us know who you are as an individual and makes you stand out as who you are.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rush. So we're going to go ahead and transition to the resident FAQ. So the residents that are now on the call, can you go ahead and quickly introduce yourselves?
Hey, yeah, I'm Derek Jones. I'm one of the 5th years, one of the 3. I think I'm the only one that's on though. What else? I'm starting a hand fellowship.
Anna's on.
One of the 5th years.
Anna's on.
Anna's a 4th year.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
I'll be doing a hand fellowship next year. So I don't know if any questions will be relevant to that, but there you go.
I'm Anna Jacques. I'm one of the 4th years, originally from Poland, born and raised there, then Chicago, and then Miami. Live local now, where my family is. I am going into trauma. I'm applying right now, so I'm in your same shoes, just for another position. Without going through. Basically quick.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Ian on?
Yeah, I'm on here. I'm Ian. I'm
okay, good.
I'm from Wisconsin. Go Packers.
All right, thank you.
Ian, you're in the call room, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you don't have a camera on. That's the only reason I asked. Which is fine.
All right. So for residents, so a lot of residents that are in the programs that we've met are actually previous sub-internship applicants that went through, each of the programs, and obviously depending on the school determines how many actually sub-Is that you can do. But can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on what your sub-I internship experience was at Broward?
maybe Ian wants to kick this one off since he did it most recently.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so the question was, what was the sub-I experience like at Broward?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're a student at Broward, you do trauma for 4 weeks, which is sort of unique because most programs you'll sort of bounce around. So if you go somewhere else, for example, you'll do joints for a week, you'll do spine for a week, you'll do hand for a week, and you're moving all over the place, meeting all these new people every week, and you have at least I thought, a more difficult time getting a feel for the program. But at Broward, you spend those 4 weeks pretty much with the same people every day. So we get a very good feel for who the rotators are as a person. And because of that, we end up getting individuals who fit very well with the culture of our program. And trauma is, like Dr. Rush was saying, we're very busy. It's the level 1 trauma center. So there's never a lack of things to do at Broward.
And in terms of kind of the most recent updates for the audition, I kind of made this change a couple months ago, and I think it's going well. Historically, it used to be that you would go and there would be like 4 students and you would take Q4 call. And for better or worse, you didn't always get to go home the next day, which was exhausting. And a lot of us residents kind of felt bad for you guys. So we would stop actually calling you in for your call shifts, which then made your kind of educational experience being on call, which I think is a very important part of it. It was a little bit more lackluster. So what we did last block, and I think it's been well received, is we actually have you guys get post-call days off. And it's not like you can go home if you want, and then you are kind of in this bind that you're like, oh, well, now I don't know what to do because maybe it's a test. We pretty convincingly tell you to go home. But that way, residents who are on call are more inclined to have you come into the hospital, really help with working up trauma patients. And that's when things kind of really go haywire. That's when you get all your car accidents. So you get the experience and you kind of get a better feel for what life is like being on call and are a little bit more involved. So that's just something to expect, for better or worse, if you were to come and audition here.
Yeah, and to build off of that, I think that if you guys, or if anybody just understands that an audition or a sub-I is basically like an extension of your interview, you can show a lot through that, right? So you show up, obviously the first couple of times you do anything, we don't expect much, but then once you've gotten to do it, we expect to see a progression. And even if someone comes in with maybe lower level skills because it's their first one, or not much of an understanding, or a lower base, you can really tell how hard somebody works through rotation and what kind of a resident they're going to be just by the progression they make through their rotation. If by the last week of the rotation, we come to do a splint or a reduction and you have everything set up, you can totally translate your preparation for even just a reduction to what kind of a resident you're going to be, right? It's just like your time to shine and your time to show all of the skills that you have as a future resident.
And I'm going to chime in just to say that we the residents expect you to be part of the team, and we consider our residents a team that is the best SEAL team in the world. Okay, we're SEAL team 4050. All right, we're the best of the best, and we expect the students to be part of that team, and we want to see how well you play together, as well as how well you integrate with our family of residents and attendings. And the other thing is, an important thing that Derek said at the very beginning of that is, one of the things I think I do fairly well, sometimes I don't, but most of the time I do, is I listen to the residents for their feedback. And if they have a really good idea of how to improve something about the residency program, I'll try and incorporate it. I did that with the rotations, how many months they're doing of trauma, incorporating when they do certain rotations during the course. I mean, I've changed the schedule around a lot over the past 20 years to allow them to do things, but it's also, like Derek said, to make it fair and equitable for you guys as well, to take that need to say, oh, they tell me to go home, but should I really go home? You know, take that out of there. It becomes important. And I think that's listening to the residents as a program director is really important, because they are part, I talk about this, it's all one happy family. Okay. We have to live with each other for 5 years plus. I own you technically for 5 years and then beyond, because my signature is on that diploma. And I want to see my children shine when they leave the nest, as it were.
Dr. Rush is very much ortho dad.
All right.
Yes, I am.
So we're just going to ask one more question, then we'll open it up. But for you guys were talking a lot about what good fit means for you. But could you tell us a little bit more about the culture of the program and what you guys have seen students do in the past that have really maybe stood out to you, or just in general, what you look for in students on these audition rotations?
Yeah, fit's a funny word that's thrown around a lot. That makes you kind of think that we're looking for, like, I don't know, what people might view as a prototypical orthopedic resident. I don't think that's quite what we look for as a program, nor maybe should any program look for. Fit maybe is less of a personality description or a background description, more of a really like 50,000 foot view as you as a future resident. And it can be kind of brought down to, are you going to work well with others? Are you going to work hard? Are you going to give us as the more senior residents flack if we ask you to do something? Are you going to turn around and be a senior resident that gives flack to, junior residents unnecessarily? We have a wide range of personalities in our program, but where fit really is like the correct term to use is not that we are all the same type of person, but we all have these same common goals of, working hard, doing what's best for the patient, doing what's best to kind of help carry the load for others, so that not everyone's getting, everything rolling down on them. And I think that we kind of reflect that in our involvement, at least some of us, our involvement as seniors and trying to help out the juniors, and not kind of kicking everything down on them as much. So I'd say that's the best fit. I know some of you have asked, how do you stand out in your audition rotations? I would say just in general, being prepared, trying to anticipate needs of whatever residents that you're working with. If you're hanging out with the intern for the day and you're seeing consults, anticipate what they need, splint stuff, stuff that you can get, like I say, traction pin. You can't really go up in the OR and steal equipment like we can. But just anticipating what they might need or what you might need to go and do. You can also stand out in a bad way. If you're not playing nice with other students that are auditioning and trying to steal cases or undermine them in some way or another, or, if there's an etiquette to asking questions of you guys. If we ask one of you to read an x-ray and the person sitting beside you is like, oh, like trying to cut in and interject and prove that that information, we're going to view that and not say, good job, that information. We're going to see you undercutting somebody that you're working with and honestly might be a peer or colleague one day. So you can stand out in a bad way as well. And I encourage all of you guys to try to learn appropriate etiquette when it comes time to audition with us.
Yeah, I definitely echo exactly what Joan said. Another thing is for that question, I started kind of recently looking at what I used to do. Is what do I expect of others? Well, I like to just expect of others what I expected of myself. And that was to show up early enough to not be too early, but early is on time. Prepare, and maybe something that what really, really helped me was that I learned to work as a team with my co-students, and we see that ability, right? So you show up, there's a 6 a group of 6 of you guys, instead of all just doing your thing, you get together and you say, all right, how do we make this the best possible rotation? One person maybe is in charge of talking to the residents and getting all the information. How do you find out what cases are coming up? We understand you guys don't have like all the access that we do, but if you divvy up different parts of the whole service and what's most successful as a team for you guys can all make a rotation absolutely wonderful. So we would have, when I was at Broward, I remember I would come in a little earlier and I would go to the OR board and I'd find out all the cases that were there. And then I would just text our group. And then between us, we would share it. And then if we came in 30 minutes early, maybe you don't show up to the resident call room 30 minutes early, but you figure out what cases are there and then you divvy it up and then you have time to prepare so that when you're in that case and we ask you, anatomic structures for the area or an approach, you know what you're doing and you're part of the team and a part of the conversation rather than, an awkward, like, oh, what are we staring at behind the posterior mal? And you're saying like structures that are in the shoulder or something, that's just unacceptable. And that's a really good way to stand out in a bad way. So teamwork and preparation, and then just showing up on time, working hard, take notes. That's the same thing. It translates to residency. I would take notes on what do you need for a splint. It's the same thing every time, right? So like you start showing up, do the same thing every time, you make our lives easier. That's exactly the way you're going to work in residency, and it all translates.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up the floor to student questions. So go ahead and mute yourself and just ask your questions as you can.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Quick question for you guys. What was the one thing that really drew you guys to your program? And secondly, to follow up, what is your favorite thing now that you've been in the program?
I suppose I'll start. When I started the audition rotation process, the goal is to be the best surgeon you can be, is to get the best training. I admittedly am not particularly interested in research. It was kind of a means to an end for me. I wanted to get really good at surgery and taking care of patients as best as I could. So how do you do that? You operate early, at an appropriate level and often. And I found out of my audition rotations that I went to, and then looking around at other programs, I thought Broward afforded me kind of that best ability. When I say operate early, I don't mean like you're going to be doing, tab fractures as an intern or something goofy like that. I mean, getting appropriate amount of experience when you should be, if not a little bit earlier. So doing hip nails as an intern, doing, starting to ease into RIFs and things like that. I found Broward provided me that best out of most places, but then also autonomy in those cases. Doesn't matter if you're scrubbing, all these cases. Like if you have 10 cases on the board and you scrub every one of them, if you're not doing some part of the procedure that's appropriate for your level of experience. And I found that, when I came to Broward, the interns were operating and they were doing things that I've now learned is appropriate for them. And you see then also the skill level of the 4s and 5s operating. Are the 4s and 5s stealing hip nails from the interns because they don't do a lot of them? Are they stealing, routine ankle fractures from the 2s, or are they walking them through these cases? And when I rotated at Broward, the 4s and 5s were doing the complex stuff themselves, or they were teaching the younger residents the things that maybe they're more comfortable with that the younger residents can go ahead and take care of. And I think we've been able to do that now that I'm kind of in the 5th year position, trying to reflect that same, advantage or strong point that I found. So that was the kind of what drew me to Broward. You're going to hear a lot that we do a lot of trauma. We do also a lot of other good subspecialty work, but the trauma and general orthopedics is really where you kind of make your name, and then you go off and you do your subspecialty. Now that I'm a 5th year, what I like about the program, and you get a little bit more of this as a 4 and 5, is flexibility. So if I, have a lighter day doing whatever my primary responsibility is, there's other stuff going on. I can go and scrub, some micro cases. I want to do hands, so I can go scrub out these other cases that might be uncovered. There's other hospitals with cases going on that, we have physicians at, so we can go and do those cases. So the way in which our schedules are set up, it lends to flexibility of pursuing your interests. And Dr. Rush is very understanding of the development of our interests and allowing us to try to make things work to kind of do a little bit more of that. So I think now that I'm a 4, now I'm a 5, I think that's probably my favorite part of the program.
And just so you know that a tab isn't something that you open on a computer. It's the short word for an acetabulum.
Yes.
You get into a little jargon. It's like, okay, we're doing a tab today. Okay, that's not the thing you open on on the top of a computer or put in a file folder.
Yeah, so a strength that I found early and what really drew me to Broward was seeing how confident the 4th and 5th years were, their surgical skills. To this day, Dr. Rush, I don't even know if I told you this, but I remember when I was a 3rd-year med student, I came to scrub a case. It was like we had a day off on another rotation, and it was you and Blaze on one arm was a polytrauma. You guys were doing a distal radius, and then me and Tim on another arm, and we were racing against each other, approach and get the reduction. And that's that's the way we do it. The approach by 1st, 2nd year. If you know the approach and you could do it, you're gonna be left to do it with supervision. You're gonna be allowed to do that. And yeah, it's huge strength of ours. Our attendings are phenomenal. They come from all sorts of backgrounds. I see now the way that I operate, or I start my approach, or do my reductions. I take little bits and pieces from everybody. So Dr. Perez, Campbell Clinic, Dr. McCarthy, FOI, Tampa, Dr. Chenard, New York, Dr. Ross, Harvard and Michigan. I take little bits and pieces. So you got like Ken Eagle, Dr. Perez, you take everything they give you from all over the country, and you just get to choose what way you want to put it together to make it your own. And that's unique because we're not just a program that's what they call inbred. You go to these large academic centers and you look at where everybody graduated from. It's like that same place. So that's basically a lot of the same knowledge just being passed down from generation to generation, rather than getting a whole melting pot of knowledges and viewpoints and approaches. And orthopedics is not one way to do things. And so having attendings from all over the place really, really opens up your eyes and your opportunities and your critical thinking.
Awesome. My name is Lyle. I'm a 30 medical student from MyCom. I really like the, you guys said that you guys try to get early access and quickly, and I love to hear your experiences as a 3rd year. You're getting involved in that, so that's awesome. My question is, well, it's based off of my own personal life. I am a family man. I have 2 kids of my own. And so I'm interested to hear like how many residents have families. I saw, I got accepted to Derek's Instagram, and I saw that you have a soon to be 1-year-old, I think. So congrats on that. And, but yeah, I've got 2 kids, just wondering what family life is like in residency. And I know it'll be busy, but just wondering what your experience is, those who have families, what's that like?
I guess as I'm the one with the child, I'll answer the question. I don't know that. I don't think anyone else has kids. I as of right now, I'm the only one. But that's not to say that that's the exception to the rule. Previous years that have since graduated had 2, 3 kids, or eventually ended up having 2 kids by the end of residency. The way in which our program is set up is it tends to be a little front heavy, I guess is probably the best way, and that our first 2 years are the busiest, and then second to third year is probably the most notable change, and then fourth and fifth year are much more reasonable. So I got married intern year, and that was fine. Like having a wife was good for like the first 2 years, and then we strategically had our baby at during fourth year, and I thought that was the best time to do that. But it's very reasonable and very feasible, and we understand that, you know, orthopedics is a big part of our lives, but it's not our whole lives, and we understand that family and babies come first, and children come first, and when things arise, you know, taking the necessary steps to make sure they're taken care of. So I think it's very doable. I don't want anyone to come away from my answer thinking that residency is easy, because no surgical residency is, nor is any sort of residency easy. First and year, second year were definitely tough, but very doable. There's good support system within the program and from the attendings. I don't think it's coming here would be a bad thing for your family, I guess, is the most easy way to put it.
And one of the things, I don't have any children myself, and my wife and I were never able to have kids. And at this point in time in my life, it's never going to happen. I consider my 15 residents as my children, my adult children. I always put family first. I allow my residents and students, we've had students that have had family emergencies. It's like, just go. Okay, we'll worry about anything else. Just go, take care of it. And it's the same thing with my residents. Take care of family. We'll worry about everything else later. Okay, that's the most important thing. My father-in-law, who just unfortunately died at the age of 94, when he was having my sister-in-law, when his wife was pregnant, having my sister-in-law, and Lori is in her 60s now, his chief attending told him he couldn't go to the birth because he was expected to be on service. Okay, those days, at least in my eyes, are over. All right, family absolutely comes first. We've had residents come in with kids. We've had residents come in not married, then get married, and then have kids. We've had residents come in married and then have had 2 or 3 kids during the course of the residency. That means we're not working them hard enough, I guess. But you know, that's the way it is, and we try and work within our system to make that happen. And the hospital system is extremely aware of the need for health, wellness, well-being, and family. And that will always come first in my mind as a program director.
Yeah, and I like to think of us as a family to one another. So people definitely cover one another. We're very open with each other. We're in a group chat. So we understand when things come up, or when needs are, when you have family needs. That's absolutely never an issue. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We've had one resident actually get pregnant, and I think, did Emily deliver during residency, or did she deliver right after? I forget where. And we had a resident who delivered his own baby in the backseat of his car in the emergency room parking lot. Okay. Kid, he named the middle name of the kid is Carter, specifically because of the car. It's like, okay, whatever.
Gun twisted.
Sorry. Yeah, of course. Anyway.
Hi there. My name is Michael McDermott. I was curious if you could take a second to speak on the relationship of your attendings and your residents, and then maybe specifically how mentorship works in your guys' program. Thanks.
So in terms of the mentorship, it's something that actually Dr. Rush and I have talked about a couple different times. We don't have a formal mentorship set up just yet, but it is something we've been actively talking about and working on. And I honestly say that it's not something I'm just saying for the sake of answering your question. Historically, how it's been, and I think it works quite well, is you have attendings that are in the specialty that you you like or didn't realize you liked and developed an interest in it, and then those attendings you tend to gravitate toward more. That said, sometimes you just work with attendings that are in completely different specialty and you really love working with them, and you develop a little bit more of a mentorship mentee relationship. When I started residency, I was interested at first in joints, and ultimately one of my joints rotations found out I wasn't as interested in it. But I worked with one of our plastics hand attendings when I was an intern. I was like, oh, wait, this is actually awesome. And I really liked working with the attending. So you kind of develop that relationship naturally because they do the thing that you like. That said, we have a sports attending that I really enjoyed working with, and I have no interest in doing ACLs for the rest of my life, but I thought he was the man, and we had a lot of common interests, and so we still talk pretty frequently. So that's the mentorship side of it. I think our attendings, we and our attendings have a very good, a good relationship with appropriate distance, in that, like, you're not buddy with the attending so much that they can't appropriately criticize you or point out when you're not, up to par, or if you have ways in which you need to improve. Our attendings are in a comfortable position to do that, but they respect us and our work and what we contribute to the service, and we do the same to them. So I think we have a great relationship. Some are more involved than others, but all of them love to teach, and happy to take on those mentorship roles. And I think we have a very good working relationship with all of our attendings.
Yeah, and I think so we are a service-based program, meaning that residents are assigned to a service, and then there's an attending for that service or attendings. Some residencies are really, really large, and they are a mentorship-based residency where they're assigned attendings rather than services. So that's why we tend to go along our rotations and find mentors rather than being assigned them. But they're definitely there. I think all of our educators are in this because they love to teach in some form of way. And you just kind of figure out who you vibe with and who's easy for you to approach outside of the OR, which really they all are. But like what Joan said is tends to be the specialty that you're interested in. However, I too am also really quite close with our sports attending, and I am not going at sports, although I thought I was at one point. And by no means has he abandoned me because I've switched specialties. Same with peds. I mean, all of them, all of our attendings are absolutely wonderful, and any and all of them would be willing to be your mentor if you took the extra time to just talk to them outside. And it's a great way to get a letter of recommendation is, can I choose one? So Dr. Rush did say that he's willing to change the schedule based on your interests, which is very unique. He did that for me. I thought I was going to be gun-ho sports, so I went early, and I'm glad I had that experience. And I'm very thankful that Dr. Rush allowed me to have that early exposure, because it showed me what I needed to know and experience in order to choose my career path, but also develop mentors along the way. So no formal program, but we definitely have them.
Alrighty. Thank you to everybody, first of all, from Broward Health. You guys have been wonderful, giving us so much of your time today. Thank you to the students who came out of their busy schedules to come here and learn a little bit more about the program. As always, we're going to go ahead and upload this to YouTube. We will send out a link with it. At some point, we are hoping to revamp the website and add these links there so that you guys can directly access the unlisted videos. But on this note, hope everybody has a good rest of your night. Stay safe, and we will see you guys for the next open house.
Thank you.
Thank you all for hosting.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone stay well and get in touch with us, please. We very much encourage that.
Yes. So actually, last thing on that note, we'll go ahead and throw the resident contact information into the unlisted YouTube video. So that'll stay private just for people in SAOAO, but that way you guys, if you didn't get a chance to write it down, we'll have it there.